Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Okay, so I'm not fear-mongering. I'm just reading an article to make sure that those of you that are watching this video can at least look into it for yourselves and make your own decisions, okay? Because I already know what decision I'm making as far as stocking up on proteins. All right, so first let me start real quick. I wanted to thank Paula and Lori. Thanks to both of you for the donation and for the coffee. All right, so thank you guys. I truly do appreciate any of you that, take a little bit of time and especially take a few dollars out of your pockets to send it this way, because I know how hard it is nowadays to earn those dollars. So thank you very much. Truly appreciate it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to read this article so that you guys can get a taste of it for yourselves, and you can decide for yourselves how you would like to proceed. Whether you think that I'm doing some fear porn, or whether you think that I'm sincere as to what I think is going to happen, as I've stated in previous videos. But I feel that it's important to keep bringing this point home. I feel that it's important to keep ringing this bell. Okay, I think that the worst that can happen is that if I am 100% wrong and all of these people that are talking about this are 100% wrong, the worst that can happen is that you'll have meat in your fridge and or in your canning jars at a lower cost than what it's going to cost, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now. Okay, so let's start. As many as 1 million calves lost in Nebraska. Beef prices in the U.S. to escalate dramatically in the coming months. According to Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue, there may be as many as 1 million calves lost in Nebraska due to the catastrophic flooding that has hit the state. This is not a rumor, this is not an exaggeration, and this is not based on any sort of speculation. This number comes to us directly from the top agricultural official in the entire country, and it means that the economic toll from the recent floods is far greater than most of us had anticipated. You can watch Perdue make this quote on Fox Business. And it is important to remember that this number is just for one state. It is hard to imagine what the final numbers will look like when the livestock losses for all of the states affected by the flooding are tallied up. This is already the worst agricultural disaster in modern American history, and the National Weather Service is telling us that there will be more catastrophic flooding throughout the middle portion of the nation for the next 2 months. Now think about that, ladies and gentlemen. For the next 2 months, how are these farmers going to plant their fields? All right, they're already late planting. How are they going to plant their fields? If we have floodings 2 months from now, they're going to have to wait for those floods to subside in order to get their lands ready for planting. So that's even more time. I just don't see a very good outcome this year for food production, at least here in the United States. Nebraska Governor Pete Ricketts says that this is the worst flooding that his state has ever experienced. Ricketts originally told us that 65 out of 93 counties in his state have declared a state of emergency, but that number has now risen to 74. Hundreds of millions of dollars of damage has been done in this state alone, and that is just an initial estimate. It deeply offends me that the big mainstream news channels have spent so little time covering this disaster. This is the biggest news story of 2019 so far by a very wide margin. But because it happened in the middle of the country, they are not giving it the attention that it deserves. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I don't watch the mainstream media. That is why I decide to get my news from independent news creators or independent journalists, not news creators, because they don't create the news, they report the news, from independent reporters. I will not watch someone who is being paid to say what they are saying. All right, I'd rather take my word from some YouTube reporter that's making a couple $100 a month off of YouTube than to take, the word of someone who's getting paid a few $1,000,000 a year to act as a mockingbird. Continuing, in the short term, food prices will not rise too dramatically because the stores are selling the food that has already been produced. But as the months roll along, you will start to notice food prices steadily increase. Millions of bushels of wheat, corn, and soybean have been destroyed by the flooding so far, and thousands of farmers will not be able to plant crops at all this year. And the livestock losses that we have already experienced will be felt for many years to come. Beef will never be lower in price than it is right now. Heed the warning, ladies and gentlemen. I just did a pork canning video last Sunday, and I think it was a beef canning video the Sunday or 2 Sundays before that. Guess who's going to go buy some beef for the freezer? Beef will never be lower in price than it is right now. So if you are a beef lover, you may want to stock up. When the flooding initially came, it happened so fast that many farmers were powerless to do anything about it. In Sherman County, farmer Richard Panowicz says that ice and debris were exploding from the river. My apologies to Richard for ruining his name there. And this is a quote from Richard. Within 15 minutes, it was devastation, Richard said, with water, ice, and debris exploding from the river with nothing to stop it. He described some ice chunks as 3 feet thick and the size of an extended cab pickup. Richard said a lot of the dead calves he's picked up have had broken legs. Many of the carcasses were found by neighbors. That's so sad, man. Gosh. And ladies and gentlemen, these ranchers, some people may say, well, good for them. They're only in it for the money. I don't think so. I think that a lot of these ranchers who are inheritance ranchers, who inherited ranches and farms and stuff from their family, I think they treat their animals as best as they can, right? We're talking about the little ranchers here. We're not talking about the megacorps, all right? I think these people, they love their animals, but they realize that those animals were, placed here for a reason, and without them, it would be pretty hard for people to be able to live, especially with the foods that we eat nowadays that are deprived of nutrition. Unless you have your own homestead and you grow your own food and, raise your own animals, the foods that we buy at the market, unless you really have money to, buy all organic and things like that, they're not really very nutritionally, dense. That's why so many Americans are fat, including myself. It's because when we eat something, we're not getting the nutrition that our bodies need, and then we're hungry an hour later. But, and Little Miss Alaska Prepper is a great example of that. Whenever I feed her a home meal, a meal that was made at home, she'll eat half of what she normally eats if we eat junk food. All right, so that's why I've decided to cut the junk food out. I told my wife we're going to do it little. Well, I didn't tell my wife. We talked about it. I said, let's do it little, or eating out maybe once a week, and then maybe once every 2 weeks, and then eventually we may be going and eating out maybe once a month or maybe every other month, because homemade foods, depending on what you eat, if you make it from scratch, it's going to be a lot better for you than the crap that you buy at the fast food joints. Excuse my French, ladies and gentlemen. In other cases, farmers were faced with a heartbreaking choice between saving their animals or saving their neighbors. One farmer that rushed to help his neighbor ended up losing 30 calves to the floodwaters. Before man could think about his animals, he needed to help his neighbors. As the waters rose, he rescued one with his tractor. The floodwaters lifted it up and spinning him 180 degrees. He helped save 3 more people, including an 85-year-old woman and a 9-month-old baby, with a boat, he said. Then he could start counting his losses. He estimated the flood carried away 30 calves and almost as many cows, nearly $50,000 out of his pocket. It might be more. Can you imagine the grief that these families are enduring right now? Many of them are financially ruined and will never be able to go back to farming again. Dave Eaton's family has been farming the same plot of land for 152 years. But now the Missouri River has swallowed his farm. And with much more flooding to come, and with much more flooding still to come, he anticipates that his farm will be underwater all year. The farm has been in his family for 152 years. He was born there. He's been thinking about what he's learned about the Missouri's upstream reservoir and the mountain snowpack and what it means for his land. And this is a quote from him. "It's not like I'm new to the area," he said. "My gut feeling is we're going to be underwater all year." And he is definitely not the only one that has had his year ruined. Richard says that the hay and silage that were meant to feed his cattle this season were soaked in 3 to 4 feet of water. The hay and silage to feed his cattle are soaked. After sitting in 3 to 4 feet of water, sand now covers most of the pasture land he uses to graze his herd of commercial Angus cows and purebred Carolais bulls, and 40 of his recent born calves died in the flood. So what is he supposed to do? Some Nebraska ranchers will bravely try to rebuild, but not for Richard. It appears that the end has come. I'll probably sell the remaining cows and calves and get out of the cattle business. Richard, who's 65. I've been around cows since the early 1970s. I could go on, but I think that you get the point. America's farmers have been utterly devastated. America's cattle producers have been utterly devastated. Food production is going to be way below expectations, and food prices are going to escalate dramatically in the coming months. This is the kind of scenario that I have been warning about, and this crisis is going to continue to get worse as the snow from one of the snowiest winters on record melts. In Minnesota, there are still more than 20 inches of snow on the ground in some places, and all of the water has to go somewhere. This is the biggest national crisis that has hit the United States in many years, but the mainstream media and millions of Americans do not live in the affected areas still do not seem to get it. Of course, food prices start getting painfully high. Once food prices start getting painfully high at our supermarkets, everyone will be complaining, but there will not be an easy solution. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. All I have to say is this, is that we, as far as the majority, and God bless these farmers and ranchers, because, man, they are going through a tough time, but it is going to trickle down to us, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. You have to think about how lucky we are, how inexpensive food is now. I've been talking for the last year about how I've seen the prices of food going up and going up and going up. And a lot of you have concurred. A lot of you have said, yes, food prices have gone up here and there. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that's just, I think that the food prices that have been going up over the last couple of years, over the last 5 years, I think that's the calm before the storm. I think that we're going to be looking back a year or two from now saying, man, I wish we could pay, $3.59 a pound for hamburger. I think that's what's going to happen. All right. So Alaska Prepper is going to go out and he's going to go buy himself a lot of beef, probably tomorrow. And I'm going to food save them, put them in the freezer. All right. I'm guessing that I'm going to try to buy myself at least 1 year supply of beef products. Because I can see it coming. I can feel it coming. All right. It's just that people are not talking about it. The mainstream media is not devoting the amount of time on a crisis like this that they do to other stupid things. Okay. So that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a quick video for today. I'm putting this is going to be my second video for Saturday. I usually only like to do one video a day, but I just think that this is pretty important, and I think that people need to take a look at this and at least go and do some of your own research so you can make up your mind and educate yourself about the situation before you decide what you want to do for yourselves and your families. Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you to all of you for your support. If you're here for the first time, I'm not a doom and gloomer, all right? I just try to put what's out there and give you my bit of an opinion on it, and then you can go and research and do your own, do your own research so that you can think for yourselves. All right, so if you're here for the first time, welcome to the channel. Please hit the subscribe button. All right, there's a myriad of videos that I put up. It's just not about this stuff. It's about prepping. all right, and long-term storage, and just make sure that you're prepared in every way that you can be for anything that may happen at any time. All right, it's not just for one thing. To my VIPs, community members, thank you very much for joining me again for another video. Thank you for your support. For all of you that would like to support the channel, just take a look at the links in the description. There's many ways that you can support the channel without having to dig in your pockets. I do appreciate those of you that do buy me a coffee now and then. Thank you so much. It's truly appreciated. But if you don't have money to contribute, that is fine. Please use my Amazon link. Let a commercial or two go by. That helps a lot. There's other links down there you can take a look at. So if you like to support the channel, take a look at it. All right. If not, I hope that you did enjoy the video at least and got something out of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say have a good day. So remember to be good to each other, because when good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.